Next item is E, adopt a resolution approving second quarter budget amendments for the 2010-11 operating and capital improvement program budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These budget amendments predominantly are summarizing actions that the City Council took during the course of the just concluded 3 months from October through December. So I'll just briefly go over some of those actions there. In the area of grants, we had City Council took actions to appropriate monies, grant funds for a couple of capital projects. First one is the Transit Corridors Pedestrian Connection Improvement Project, which is being funded by a Livable Communities grant. So we have revenues and an appropriation for the $262,000. The second item there is a FEMA grant that we received for the mobile and portable radios for the fire department, and also a second grant for rescue equipment. Those amounts will be expended for the purchase of those assets there. And then the last item on this particular slide is an appropriation of $50,000 from the Public Arts Fund for the memorial sculpture. Moving on, the Emergency Disaster Fund. The first section with the aggregate total of $1.387 million were items that have been discussed with the City Council during the course of the 3 months. And I'm not going to go over each one of those items individually, but one of the more significant items obviously is the item on the erosion control and the work on the retaining wall and at the canyon. The second portion of that is our costs that the city has incurred since the disaster in terms of response. When I say response, these are predominantly overtime that staff has incurred in relationship to work for the Glenview disaster, and then the various categories of supplies. We also had professional services from our interim city attorneys. We had separate bills for the work devoted to the Glenview fire, and that's identified there. And then some items in terms of tools and equipment, and that actually includes, even though it's classified as tools and equipment, includes the extra costs that we incur for the debris removal related to the incident. So in aggregate, that sums up to be about $680,000. Moving on, other adjustments, amendments to the budget, specifically capital improvement items. We have the grade separation of $277,000. That's being funded by the redevelopment agency, and also the Transit Corridors Pedestrian Improvement Plan. As indicated earlier, part of that is a grant, and the other portion is actually coming from the RDA. So the aggregate of that is $350,000 for that particular project, appropriations for that. In terms of parks and facilities capital improvement projects, the project on hand is the installation and the purchase of the wheelchair lift for the library, and that actually was funded by the State Library Fund. And lastly, on this slide is an appropriation in the wastewater fund for the development of the sewer master plan. And in terms of the redevelopment agency, we have the 2 transfers out for projects, namely the grade separation and again the transit corridor pedestrian connection improvement projects. So that summarizes the appropriation and the revenue adjustment requests for the just concluded quarter. I'll take any questions from the City Council at this point in time.
Any questions?
Through the chair.
There you go.
Just on the appropriations, the $679,442, which are costs directly attributed to the disaster on September the 9th. It's my understanding that these are costs that are being issued down or claims being given to PG&E for reimbursement.
Absolutely. Our goal is to make the city whole in terms of financial expenditures, costs that we've incurred. So we are continuing to work with the recovery process and working directly with PG&E on the reimbursement of these costs.
And you indicated a little bit under tools and equipment. You gave some examples. I also believe the fire truck windshield was cracked on that night due to the heat, had to be replaced. And I believe just for supplies could be meals that were provided.
That's
during that. And you already alluded to salary and benefits, or of course overtime that the city incurred in addition to the Medicare that's required to be paid. We don't have to pay additional PERS on overtime, but those are some costs that have all gone into this, even though I know it seems rather high, correct?
That's correct. Those are really the predominant costs. The other element, which may not be overtime, is that if we had part-time staff, we held over to work more hours. In that case, then those would be just classified as regular hours.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Action?
I'll introduce the resolution for adoption.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.